Hey there, how's it going? So burnout sucks, and I've been struggling with motivation and creativity blocks for the last couple of years now. This isn't really the place to dig into it, but there's been some rough patches, so I've just been trying to maintain as much as I can. And the last game I ended up making was well over a year ago. And while I was able to make that game for the jam, I couldn't get myself to finish the video about it. I've started working on it many times, but it's just ended up nowhere so far. So I was a bit nervous when I was contacted about joining in on a Blackthornprod video. If you don't know Blackthornprod, I'd be shocked. But just in case, they're two brothers that have been making awesome games, YouTube videos, and tutorials for many years now. Their games have an amazingly unique style that you can't forget. I've actually been approached a couple of times to participate in a video, but for one reason or another, things just never really worked out. Especially since recently, a lot of the videos they've been doing are the some number of game devs make a game without communicating, and since I use such a niche engine, I usually can't participate in things like that. But using Construct is actually working in my favor now, because Blackthornprod is bringing back their engine battles format, where a number of devs, each using a different engine, have 24 hours to make a game with the same theme. Basically, it's a private game jam where each of the participants is using a different game engine to see what everyone comes up with. So I said yes and felt a bit of immediate dread that I was going to make a fool out of myself because I'm super out of practice. So I spent the next week making sure that every night I was sitting down for a couple of hours just to refamiliarize myself with Construct, the projects, how to actually work and make things in it, and do it quickly. Then Saturday arrived and my heart dropped when I saw the theme. Physics. It's really not what I was hoping for. I don't have anything against physics mechanics in general. I actually like them a lot, but I've only tried to make physics-style games a couple of times. And really, they're just ball-falling games. So with my limited knowledge of Construct's physics behavior, I got straight to brainstorming. Sometimes in a challenge like this, you get an idea right away. This was definitely not one of those times. I spent the first 2 hours going back and forth with what even to make. Since I had already made drop-style games, I was focused on that as the main kind of feature, mainly thinking of things like Peggle or Peglin as starting off points. The other physics-style mechanic that I have always been a fan of is the fling mechanic, the pull back, release, and watch something fly, something like Angry Birds or a game like Smashing 4. So really, after 2 hours, the only thing I could really think of was a fling bounce down style game where you fling an object up and it bounces down, something like Peggle or Peglin in that kind of vein. But instead of starting at top and dropping, you fling it up first to kind of add something different. I know it's not much, but it's all I had to go on. So I started building hoping inspiration would strike as I got going. First was to add the ball with the physics behavior and then add some controls to be able to fling it. All you have to do is click and drag in the opposite direction you want the ball to move. Once you release, we add force to the ball and it's sent flying. Usually you set a variable or something to stop the ball from being able to be flung again until it hits the ground, but before I could even get to adding that in while testing just the force alone, I found it was really enjoyable to actually be able to just stop your movement mid-flight and shoot yourself off in another direction. This honestly felt a lot more engaging than just flinging a ball and watching it fall down. I've always tried to stick to the follow the fun mentality, especially when I'm not jazzed about my original idea anyway. So I transitioned my idea to be, what if we fling the ball through a maze and collect coins or something like that? Once I thought of collecting coins, I don't know why, but I got 1,000 coins stuck in my head, and that kind of carried me through the rest of this build. I made a quick list of things I thought we would need for a maze, and I started adding them, basically hoping that I could take the pieces once I've made them and turn them into something fun within the time frame. I threw in some square coins to collect because I really wanted to test how you navigate around. I want the game to be focused on movement. However, if you can fling as much as you want, then players may just do tiny little movements the whole time, but that's not the type of experience I want for the players. So to keep from people spamming flings, I added in just a limited number of them. When you move, you lose one, and when you don't have any more, you can't move. But I do want the fling counter to be able to increase, so I added in balls that you could pick up that would increase your fling number. Limiting the number of flings you have seems like a logical place to start when adding challenges. So in that vein, I made areas that disable your ability to fling while the ball is overlapping it. My thought is to use it for area transitions so you can't go backwards, or for the ability to fall through cool areas and get a cool slide effect. We're going to need an end state after you run out of flings, so falling onto spikes seems to do the work just fine. Next, I added boosters that honestly never really functioned quite right, and I ended up not using them, but you're going to see them through some of the footage, so I thought I'd at least address them. The movement was feeling great, but I was finding it a little tough to exactly hit the coins. We need some sort of absorb effect like a magnet power-up. That way, if the magnet field touches the coin, it will trigger it to move to the player. This allows for the player to be a little bit less precise, with the added benefit of having a really satisfying visual effect, which I decided to lean into. If we have several magnet power-ups around the map, you can navigate the level collecting them, so as you advance throughout the game, you also advance in your coin collection and satisfaction. Alright, I think I got the basics in, but now it's time to make it look a little less boxy. Normally, I create my own art for the games that I make, but I was really stressing about time with this one. So in an effort to save some time in art, I opted to grab a physics game asset pack I know I like from Kenny. But there is one problem with it. It doesn't have a coin, which was kind of the whole idea of the game. So I was looking at other asset packs and I was thinking about making my own, and then I realized there's a star. And there's really no reason the game has to be coins specifically. There's not going to be timed at a shop or anything you can buy. I had thought about unlockables at one point, but there's just not going to be time with 24 hours. And 1,000 stars has a pretty good ring to it as well. Speaking of 1,000, let's see what it actually looks like. That's a lot, but okay, we gotta try this. Oh yeah, that's just so satisfying. Okay, so at this point, everything is great, right? I've got all the pieces, I should just have to go and put it all together. And unfortunately, no, because this is where I started making a way overcomplicated map. It did not work out well. I was adding in features to try and make it more fun. It wasn't more fun. It took me a very long time to put together. And in the end, I scrapped all of it, so that was a waste of 4 hours. Yeah. It's now 10 p.m. and I need an entirely new strategy. I decided to try and simplify everything down as much as I could and just work from the center out. Instead of a maze, I opted for one big level with obstacles in it, and I opted to put the magnets on each of the 4 sides. With the idea being that you want to find a good route to collect all the magnets as fast as you can, that way you can collect even more stars. I mirrored the left and right pickup spots, but I wanted to have something different for the top and the bottom. For the bottom, I brought back a little bit of the original maze idea with these tight corridors that you need to navigate through. And for the top, I wanted a big collection area where you'd get a good density of stars and be able to grab as many as you can at once. Next, I added some no fling areas. 1, because I made them and I wanted to use them, and 2, because I think they balance out the challenge of the bottom area. Now I have a layout that I actually like, but there's a problem. The name 1,189 stars is terrible. So one more design pass to limit the number of stars and make it look a little more appealing. So I was doing a lot of playtesting at this point. 1, because I wanted to make sure it was working. 2, I was actually having a lot of fun with it and kinda just kept going. But I also wanted to see if it would be possible to collect all 1,000 stars, and it really didn't seem like it was going to be able to. Which is kind of what I wanted, because I wanted to make sure that it was more of a high score style game than trying to get one singular objective, right? If the objective is to get the highest score you can and then the next time try to beat that, that's a lot more doable than falling short of reaching 1,000 over and over again, and if you don't collect a ton, then you feel like you're really far behind. So I wanted to keep this feeling like an old arcade game where the goal is just the high score. Alright, we're halfway through the challenge and there is still a lot left to do. Clarity for the player is important, and I wanted the player to always know when they can and can't fling. Because on top of the no fling areas, there's also a short delay after you fling where you can't actually reactivate and fling again. Seriously, how many times am I saying fling in this video? So now the ball will turn red as an easy visual for when you can't fling. I also found it irritating to look down at the bottom right-hand corner to see how many flings I had left, so I added the remaining fling counter to the ball where the player is always focusing. It's definitely not flashy enough, so I added a placeholder particle that bursts when you collect stars, as well as adding in the high score tracker, which took me a lot longer than it needed to because it was getting late. At this point, it's 3 in the morning. I've been working for 15 hours straight, and I'm crashing hard. My original plan was to just work through the whole night, take a lot of caffeine, and just go. But unfortunately, my current job has me getting up really early in the morning during the week, and that means that my entire ability to stay up late is not there like it used to be. My progress ended up slowing so bad that I realized I needed to just get some sleep. So I went to take like a 2-hour nap, hoping that that would give me enough energy to get back to it and keep rolling. And of course, that 2-hour nap ended up extending itself because every time my alarm went off, I hit snooze, and I did that for an extra hour and a half. By the time I peeled myself back up and got back into it, it was already 7 in the morning. And it was time for me to finally get everything together. So I started with an art pass. I added some life to the stars with randomized sign behaviors so they just kind of moved around while they existed. I really wanted everything to pop more, so I added some drop shadows to all the objects, which I really like the look of. The spikes are still just red triangles, so using the colors from the red ball, I made them red triangles with style. Even when I'm using a pre-made asset pack, there's always specific things that I have to make for my games, it seems like. I also needed to make the bonus fling pickups as well as the magnet sprites. It's all feeling a bit too dark for the vibe that I'm going for, so I added in the blue checkered background and a nice vignette around it to kind of give a little bit more focus. Going as fast as I could, I finished up the art around 8:30 a.m. And now it's time for my least favorite part of short timeline challenges, adding sound effects. I've bought a bunch of sound effect packs on Humble Bundle and Itch over the years, and you'd think with all those sound effects that would make the process easier, right? Nope, still takes forever to go through them, listen to them, find the right one, import it into the project, add the function to call the sound effect to the bit of code where it needs to be, then test it to make sure it works and sounds good. And if it does, great. If not, I get to do it all again, and you gotta do that for every single sound. All the love to you sound designers out there, it's not for me, it takes me so long, and I just kinda wanna complain. Thanks, I'm good now. The final thing to do was add the menus and how to play screens, which I won't bore you with. We were just about at the end of the 24 hours and it was my usual streaming time. I had been planning on not streaming that day because I figured I'd be exhausted, which I was. But I also wanted some playtesters and bug finders as well. So I decided to hop onto my normal Sunday stream where I usually play other people's games, and instead make them playtest for me this time. This was honestly so helpful. We found and fixed a few bugs that I had just been ignoring because I didn't know what to do with them. They kept happening, I couldn't figure out why, and I was just hoping people wouldn't encounter them. The worst being that if you flung too quickly after death, you would launch yourself at light speed into a spike. To all of you watching that were there that day and helped out, I really truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. The game would have definitely been worse without your help. With that all done, I posted the game to my itch page and sent the game off to Blackthornprod and the other devs. As of recording this, Blackthornprod's video has yet to come out. I'm trying to get this done around the same time, so I don't really know what other people thought of it. I hope they had fun, but ultimately, I'm pretty pleased with the game, honestly. The gameplay is active and engaging and kind of addictive for me, with super satisfying visuals and sounds. So for 24 hours and not making a game in over a year, I think that's more than I could have ever wanted. There are a few things that I would and still probably may change. I wanted to have a less difficult mode where you could get rid of the spikes. It would be super easy to set up, I just have to add another save feature for the high score. I think that would be a more inviting way for some people to get their bearings around the gameplay. It's definitely harder than I usually like to make my games. But with the goal being a high score, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Alright, and the question I know you all have, can you actually get all 1,000 stars? Yes? But it is so hard. It's dumb. It's too hard. It took me about 3 days or so to finally be able to do it. And I actually did it twice, where the first time I did it, I used my last fling and ended up dying at the same time because it didn't know what to do. But it is possible. It's just really, 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 really hard. I'll add in the footage of the whole run at the end of this video so you can see how I collected all 1,000. I had a lot of fun with this project, and it was really great getting back into making some games. I know life is extremely hectic for everybody right now, but it was nice to just get lost in creativity for a little while again. If you'd like to play the game, there's a link in the description below. Leave your high score. I'd love to see if people can actually complete it. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and I hope to see your projects one of these days. One of the only things that I've really been able to keep up with in the game making space over the last year or so is my Sunday streams where we get together and do community playtesting. People submit their games, we check them out, we give feedback, we talk about design. It's an absolute blast, and it's one of my favorite days of the week. So if that sounds fun to you, there's a link in the description below as well. I need to give an enormous thank you to my entirely patient Patreon supporters, Motzi, Nazar Salim, and Warren Stephen Rose. Thank you all so much. And thank you all for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and be good to each other. I'll talk with you next time. Have a good one. Later.
You